Greetings. In this video we will discuss the China's plan to become the world superpower. It's called China 2049 and then let's get right into it. So, what is the plan? The plan is to make China the strongest nation in the world, build up the Chinese dominance, expand the territory of China, create the world's strongest economy and influence the whole world. Kind of what the US is right now. So, their step one was the economic growth, and let's discuss that. China was, between 2010 and 2020, in the last decade, the fastest growing economy in the world. If you look at the chart on the right bottom corner, you will see that from 2010 and to 2020, Chinese economy more than doubled, whilst the US economy grew around 25%. The US economy went from 15 trillion to around 20 trillion, while the Chinese economy went from 6 trillion to 15 trillion. Their next step in their economic plan is the Made in China 2025, which is basically the flip. They want to flip. When you read Made in China, they want to flip your thoughts. You know, you used to think when you read Made in China, it's a cheap product, it's a bad product, it's cheaply made, it isn't really anything great. But they want to flip it. They want to think when you read Made in China, it should stand for innovation. It should stand for technological advancement, kind of what the US has, or the Germany. Or when you read Made in Germany, you know it's a quality product. Or when you read Made in the US, it's a quality product, more or less. So they want to do the same with China. When you read Made in China 2025, it should be like, whoa, this is a great product. So they want to change the public view of China from the producer to the innovator, from the cheap labor to the visionaries. You know, they want to change it really drastically. It's really going to be a hard process, but this is what they're working on currently. They're also trying to build more trade routes. When you look at the disputes of China, and it's Taiwan and it's the South Chinese Sea, which are basically just for trade purposes. The US has great control of the Chinese economy and the Chinese trade routes because the US is friends with Taiwan and friends with Japan. So China is getting kind of blocked. And US is also friends with Philippines, so they're gonna get blocked on the completely eastern flank. So this is the basic dispute of the South Chinese Sea. It's basically just to get control of the trading route there, because no one needs control of our sea area, right? So they need control and they want to establish dominance in the sea routes in the south and in the east. They're also investing in Africa and many more poorer countries. Why? Because I think one reason may be because they want to flip the Made in China to Made in Congo, or Made in a country in Africa, basically, so that they get rid of the image Made in China is cheap, so that the Made in Africa or Made in an African country becomes the next Made in China. This is a pretty logical step, so they're investing in many African countries, and this is a big thing they do. Also, Russia does the same, so this is probably a big plan and has something big behind it. So now let's talk about the step 2, which is influence, and a lot of examples that I'm going to use and a lot of knowledge that I've learned is from Yuri Bezmenov. He's a very interesting guy. He's an ex-KGB agent, and he talked a lot up on the Soviet propaganda, the KGB propaganda, and how they tried, and they were very successful in destroying the Western's youth, because the youth is everything to a nation. Basically, go watch him. Has great many interviews, many lectures. Very interesting guy. You have to watch him, especially in this time of propaganda from all sides. You don't know what to trust, and after you watch his interviews, you will trust nothing. So, what China did is they tried to build, and they did, their own youth. And I'm going to pull up some statistics later, but they tried to build up their own youth. And when you think about the Chinese kid, you think about the hyper-intellectual Asian who is well at maths, a good engineer, and all of that thing. A medic, a doctor. And this is basically the stereotype of a Chinese kid. But the stereotypes have always some truth into them. And this is also true in this case. I'm going to pull up a crazy statistic later. You will be shocked. So, what they did is they tried to build up their own youth. And they tried to destroy the values of the enemy. Like the Western values got probably all destroyed. We don't have anything traditional in ourselves anymore. All the West is completely turned 180 degrees. If you take a guy from the 1970s and bring him here into 2022, he will think he's in a completely different world, and the fall of the Western civilization is imminent. And I have a video about it. I have a video on it, and I'm still working on it. It's a pretty complex matter, but the fall of the Western civilization is pretty imminent. What China also tries to do, and they did pretty successfully, is try to demoralize the enemy's youth. If you look at Mr. Bezmenov's interviews, he talks about this very extensively. He talks about how important it is to demoralize the youth, and if you change the youth's view, because then you change the complete nation's view, because the youth will influence the whole nation. It's very interesting. And obviously, the KGB worked with the Chinese spy agencies because they're both are pretty close, both communist countries. They also have the very similar military technology. So it's pretty obvious that they work together. How did they achieve to do this is pretty interesting. So what they did also is to promote liberalism, globalist and self-destructive worldviews. And how they did that is through social media with TikTok, which is very interesting. It's very interesting. Also, about TikTok, I advise you to go and search videos how TikTok is destroying a generation and probably the generations after that. And then you will link up all the puzzle pieces together and you will see how genius China actually is. This is like a IQ 450 move. So, let's talk about TikTok for a second. So we go on further, but I want to tell you how TikTok works, so you understand it, and you understand that this is planned. This is deliberate. So TikTok was developed by an AI company. TikTok's founders and developers were extremely good at AI. They were groundbreaking at AI technology. So this is perfect for spyware, because TikTok, we all know this, spies on your phone. It collects a bunch of data from your phone and it sends it to the Chinese government. It has to, because all of Chinese companies have to obey the Chinese law. And the Chinese law is that you have to give all the information the Chinese government wants to them. So, when we look at TikTok, it's even more clear why this is a huge propaganda machine. Because if you look at TikTok in the West, it's, again, self-destructive, globalist, rebellistic content. It's like guys doing makeup, stupid dances, alcohol parties, stupid memes, and all of that kind of thing. I had TikTok one time. I had it for one day, like one afternoon, and I scrolled through it, and it feels like like they're trying to install a complete worldview into my head. It's strange. There were some girls and guys talking about certain political topics, and they all talked and they all said basically the same things, but in a different way. It felt really manipulative. I felt like somebody tried to install something into me. So if you have this, if you have time, or if you never had TikTok, or go watch it. Or if you have TikTok, try to watch it from an outsider's perspective. Like, don't agree with everything, but question everything, and then you will see it. Because I like to question everything before I use it. So this is probably the reason why I noticed this. My friend also noticed this. He told me. So this is why I downloaded TikTok, which was very interesting to see. And I found out about this spyware and how they track everything and how they tell all your information to the Chinese government. Scary. Step 3 is destabilization. These are not like official steps or anything like this, but I kind of made them that way. And destabilization, if you watched Yuri Bezmenov's content, you will be pretty familiar with this, because this is also one point that he made. How can you destabilize a nation? Maybe through a pandemic. What? Yeah, we had something like this, right? Yeah. And China didn't really get affected by it. And even if it did get affected by it, the whole world got affected by it. So it would be a pretty smart move. But I will not say anything that resembles a conspiracy theory, because, yeah. So, how did this pandemic happen? Basically, there was a bat. No, we have to go a little bit further. We're like in a town in China. It's like a small, dirty town. There was like a dark black market, and there was like a bat. And the bat, it pissed on meat, on uncooked meat. And some dude took that meat and ate it, and Corona came. So guys, the funny thing is, guys, basically in Wuhan, this is like a picture of Wuhan. In Wuhan, there is biolab, and a biolab level 4. If you don't have any experience with biolabs, they're like leader in different levels. And level 4 is a biolab where they experience with chemical, biological stuff that isn't curable. If we don't have a cure to anything, then it's going to be experimented on in a biolab level 4. These are the most safe biolabs ever, because these are so dangerous. And I'm not sure why China has a biolab in a city, because like biolab level 4s in the US are in deserts, because obviously it's pretty dangerous if something gets out of it. And the funny thing is, did they have SARS-CoV variants in the biolab? Yes, they did. But we all know this, but the media will not talk about it. We even skipped. We went through, what do we have? We have the Delta variant, the Alpha variant, the, Omicron variant, but we don't have the Xi variant, which is the name of the Chinese president, which is pretty funny because it came from China, It's so funny. I'm not sure where I'm living at. What time is this? Is this a time of irony? Is this a South Park season that we are a part of? I do not know. So what's another way to destabilize a nation? It's through the threat of a war, like we see with Taiwan, we see with Wuhan, India. Also, what's great with the threat of a war is basically other countries are also scared of you, like the US, because the US is pretty close with Taiwan, and if Taiwan gets into the hands of China, then China will be completely free, because it wouldn't have the US wouldn't have a ally so close like Taiwan. Taiwan is pretty close, and it controls basically the coasts of China. Also, how you can destabilize a nation is through social media. We discussed this before. It's crazy. It's 2022. Like, this is like the easiest day and age to be a spy. You don't even have to be a spy to be a spy. You can basically have like a big social media platform, and if everyone downloads it, you can completely track the whole nation. This is crazy. I'm not sure. Was it ever so easy to be spying on people? This is like extremely easy. Like, they developed like a social media platform that's extremely addictive, and then they spy on the whole complete country, and whilst they are spying, they're also completely destroying these countries' youth, these countries' values, and everything. This is crazy, this is great, this is genius. Let's talk about the dark side of this plan. Well, basically this whole plan is dark, but let's talk about the dark side for the Chinese people. The Chinese people face extreme government control. They're like being completely monitored. The government has a credit system. It's pretty interesting. They have completely everything on cameras. They see everything. They see every movement. They see how old you are. They see what you do. They see what you did. What's your job? What's your school level? What's everything? What's your credit score? What's everything they can see on a screen. interesting. They have like cameras all over their cities. This is crazy. This is like some really, really interesting stuff. Really, really interesting. Is West going to become this way? We don't know. I hope not. I do not think. I think West is going to crumble before that. To manipulation, we discussed this before, like for example with TikTok, and the whole propaganda that is in their own country. But this is like every country has its own propaganda, so this is nothing new. Also, the genocide. Yeah, I think you're all familiar with it. I'm not going to talk a lot about it because I'm not too lectured on this topic. But wrong picture. But we know what they're doing down there, which is crazy. They have basically concentration camp. They have basically concentration camps there. So pretty crazy. And if you look at from the Second World War, it looks pretty similar. They just changed the outfits a bit. Crazy, scary, and nobody talks about it. Hey. Why should we talk about it? Guys, come on. So, what's next for China? We don't know. There's not a real plan. They didn't, write like a plan and then they didn't leak it to the public to see. It would be pretty stupid. But what we can probably assume is military expansion. They're doing that already. They're trying to become a really, really strong naval force. They're trying, to make new tanks. They have a new tank variant. So they're pretty heavily investing in their military, which only means that they are going to rely on it someday. Also, what they're also doing is territorial expansions, as we see in Taiwan, South Chinese Sea, Wuhan. They're threatening India, and so on and so forth, like small little territorial gains then and there. Also, what they're doing is they will continue on doing is the political expansion, especially in Africa, as we see right now. Like they're really making good friends with some African countries to control the trade routes. It's pretty interesting, and I'm pretty interested to see how this whole situation will develop. And thank you for watching. Be sure to leave a comment, to leave your thoughts, maybe your own opinions, or if I got something wrong, feel free to correct me. If you have any improvement tips, you can write them also down there. Any questions regarding this topic, if I'm able to answer them, I will do my best to do so. And dislike if you do not like this video, like if you do, and see you next time on Thoughts of Mine.